So, Saturday Arvo, I was in the office figuring that I hadn't done a YouTube video in a while, and I was like racking my head, what the fuck can I do? Trying to like be consistent and all that type of shit with it. Firstly, I was thinking of like a tool review, something like that. I was like, meh, they get done a lot. Then, came up with a new concept, a tool discussion. Namely, around Festool and if it's actually worth owning or not. So, I have some Festool tools that I thought I'd run through of like why I actually bought them and why you would want to or would not want to. Today's video. Alright, first up is my Capex. It's a good saw, it's light duty. If you are stick framing or a general framer, I wouldn't go one of these. I'd go one of the DeWalt's, probably maybe the Makitas. We've got one of the Cordless Milwaukee's. It's okay if you're doing small amounts of stuff. If you're only going to have one drop saw, I wouldn't suggest it be this one. Go one with a bit stronger motor. These bog down a little bit. They're not super good at cutting bigger stuff either. So if you're doing like 140 walls or something like that, from memory you can't sit it up on edge. Don't quote me on that. If you're doing fix and fit out work, which I was when I bought this, it's great. The head goes each way, which is good. When you're cutting in skirting, it's nice just to be able to flick the lever at the back and run it each way, not having to turn your piece over to get the other angle. Yeah, not for framing. If you're doing fixing, buy it, but for me it'd still be a secondary saw. The amount you spend on it too, you can use that money more wisely. Vacuums. Here we've got the Makita, Festool, and the Milwaukee. The Festool vacuum's really good because obviously it ties in with all the other tools. So as soon as you get it, you can pretty much plug it into track saw, sanders, drop saws, all that shit. I'm still not convinced it's worth the money. I know the newer ones are HEPA rated. And my other small gripe with Festool, the plastic's really brittle. So I've dropped this once and I busted the back wheels off it. Bloke I used to work for, his fell off the tailgate of his ute and he busted all here. Yeah, you probably could fix it, but realistically, I'm not going to. And I'd say most people can't be fucked fixing it either. Most of us just like keep rolling through with it. I'd nearly just go one of these because they're a heap cheaper. This is where Festool earn their money. 9-inch track saw, or 7 9-inch. It's an odd measurement. Anyway, the track saws are worth it. They're powerful enough. Make sure your blade's sharp. Super sturdy. If you need a track saw, I would suggest spending the money on these. Really well made. You can get by with a Makita or a DeWalt. I wouldn't suggest going much cheaper than that. If you've got the spare coin, grab one of these. This is a cordless version of a similar saw. This one's good. It's got you can attach the cross-cut thing to it. I lost mine. These aren't framing saws. These are fix and finish saws. This one kind of replaces a drop saw to a small extent if you've got super quick cuts to make. Especially on long material, where you would usually need a drop saw and a bench. This is really good because you can keep everything low on the ground and stable, have the rail that goes onto it. It finds square and its angles, push it through. You can do your 45s for cutting in skirting and shit like that. Battery life's pretty reasonable. The that's sat in that box for a long time and it's still got 2 bars left in it, so kudos to Festool there. Other Festool tool worth spending the money on is a sander. This is the Rotex 150. If you put this with 40 grit and use it in the, you got these adjustments up here, one's like smooth and one's like geared. Flick it over to geared and you can hear it. This with 40 grit is pretty much an angle grinder. It's a fucking beast. If you're doing much sanding, would suggest, again, if you're framing, not relevant at all. The only time I use a sander framing is if I'm marking out and I fuck up, I'll sand my lines off the plate. Yeah, but this with like 600 grit on it is amazing. If you're doing much finish or, if you're doing much finish work, grab one of these. And then obviously your Festool vacuum ties in perfectly to that. Ultimately, I'd say mostly what tool brand you buy comes down to budget. I use, well, budget and how easy they are to repair and get parts for. Most of my tools that I keep with me on a daily are Milwaukee. Most of what the boys use is Makita, I think most of them have. Nail guns are Pasload. Yeah, like, they're good, but I wouldn't bust my balls spending the money on them if you weren't using it most days. It's just not necessary, but thought that might interest you. We'll see how this type of video goes compared to just like following the boys around with a GoPro on site. If this one goes all right, I'll make a couple of more of them. If you've seen some tools in the background you want me to talk about, drop it in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe. Try and knock another one of these ones out next week.